Ahoy folks, and welcome back to Broadside Gaming. And as you can see today, we're going to be looking at the Veteran, and this is not so much a build guide, it's more of an overview of using the plasma gun. As I've had a few messages from people asking about it, so I thought I would just do an updated video about the weapon and how to use it the most effectively. So let's take a look at, first of all, how you actually want to set the weapon up. So when you're trying to roll a plasma gun, there are a few things you have to look for. So, what you want is damage, charge, and stopping power as high as you can get them, especially damage and stopping power, because both of these affect what you can kill, basically. So, as you can see, damage versus unarmored, near, far, infested, far, blah blah blah, and then stopping power. Damage basically is for unarmored and infested. Stopping power is for armor. It's a bit weird, but so both of these actually affect the output of your gun. And then charge rate, obviously, how long it takes to charge the actual shot, hip fire and braced. And then ammo and thermal resistance, self-explanatory really. Ammo is how much you carry in the gun, thermal resistance is how fast it heats up. Both of which aren't really a problem, as the way we build it and also the way we are going to be acting in the mission itself, we can negate any negatives from these 2 points. So what you want is these basically at 80. I got very lucky with this one, but as you can see, one of the perks is absolutely god awful. If I could, I would have this as either Flak and Maniac or Flak and Carapace. I've got Flak and Maniac here, but Flak and Carapace will probably be your best just to deal with the armor, as anything fleshy is pretty much going to be dealt with pretty quickly. Now, so we've looked at the modifiers, and we're going to look at the blessings now. I tend to use Gets Hot and Glory Hunter. Gets Hot is basically a necessary blessing no matter what you do with this gun. Glory Hunter, on the other hand, is optional. I like it because I mostly play Damnation and Auric and Maelstrom, and this just adds a little bit of safety in while I'm blasting away with the gun. But if you want to, you can change it over to, say, Shattering Impact. It helps you crack the harder targets. But as you can see, the first shot applies it, and the second shot benefits from it. But if you don't want Shattering Impact, you can also go for Blaze Away. 8% power for every shot fired during continuous fire, stacks 5 times. Blaze Away does not have a tier 4 blessing at this point, so don't go insane trying to look for it, because it's not there. Or you can go for Volatile. Charge speed on low overheat stacks up to 5 times. That'll just give you heavier, quicker shots to start off with, but it'll also diminish as you overcharge the gun, which you will a lot. So I tend to stay clear of Volatile because it's only helpful for a very short time. So I would suggest Blaze Away and Gets Hot for damage, or Gets Hot and Glory Hunter for a little bit more of a safety net. So we've got the weapon set up, we've got the perks we want, we've got the blessings we want. How do we use it? So here's the fun part. With this gun, it is incredibly accurate, and for headshotting, it's not as difficult as you think it is, because the actual projectile of this gun is a lot bigger than it actually looks. So even if I aim, say, there, it still counts as a headshot, because the projectile is quite generous. And that's generally what we're going to be doing with this gun. I'm using a tagging shout build, so obviously I'm getting more damage from everything I tag. If you're using other builds, obviously you'll get, there's different ways of using it, but it's usable across the board. You just have to slightly adjust your playstyle for whatever build you're using. So when we've got big groups of, say, Ragers, again, you just aim high and that's a hip fire shot. I generally don't overcharge the gun unless I'm dealing with a large group of crushers, say more than 3, or a monstrosity, because overcharging the gun is the only way you can actually, I say perils yourself, but basically blow the gun up. The plasma gun can turn on you if you do not watch your heat. And you use the extra mouse button, and that's mouse button 4 for me on my mouse, but whatever button you have, that is how you vent the heat. But generally, you don't really need to overcharge it. This thing has so much damage inherently built into it. As long as you're semi-accurate and happy doing a couple of shots, and as you get higher with the heat, the more damage you do, because the more heat you have, the more crit you have with the blessings. And generally, you can just blow through large groups. The shot from the plasma gun will just punch through very tightly packed groups. So I wouldn't usually say use this for killing, poxwalkers or just randoms, but if there's a large group all tightly packed together, throw a shot through them, kill half the group. As long as you're keeping an eye on your ammo, you're generally fine. The only time you're going to find you have difficulties with this weapon is during hectic engagements where you are having to fire a lot. The heat's stacking up, which isn't too bad. You just back off slightly, you vent it, and you keep firing. The most dangerous time for using the plasma gun is during the reload, because the reload takes goddamn ages. But we have 2 methods for getting around this. Shut up, Stephanie. We have 2 methods for getting around this problem. So first of all, it's one that I've shown you, which is the weapon swap. So you reload, turn, drop, turn, drop. Or there is the sprint method, which is slightly more difficult to do, but is actually faster. So let's just waste some ammo. The only thing I find I have to really double tap are mutants and poxhounds, really. Just because of the small hitbox of their weak spot. And the doggos like to twist around a lot, so even if you think you've got a headshot coming, it can just snake itself away. It's a bit annoying. So, the sprint method for reloading. So we hit R, hit sprint, hit sprint, and between each phase you just tap the sprint button. For me it's shift. If you're on console it's probably different. There you go, reload, twist, sprint, twist, sprint, twist, sprint. There you go. As you can see, it's a lot faster than the weapon swap method. It does require you to move around a little bit though. You can't just stand still and tap sprint because it has no effect. But the sprint method is better. As you can see, it cuts down on the reload time by about 75%. There's no way of telling how long this is going to work for, because Fat Shark does like to ruin any fun we can find. I say in jest, but yeah. So I cannot guarantee you 6 months from now this is going to work, but for the moment it does. And that is how you really get the most out of the plasma gun. Now, we've talked about firing it, we've talked about its stats and how to reload it. With the plasma gun, all you really have to do is master the reload. And I would say as well, I don't wait until I've run out of ammo to reload. Anytime there is a lull in combat, like you have a few seconds of just nothing's around, reload then. If nothing is coming at you, reload. As you can see, I still mess it up. Reload when things are quiet. You always want to be as much ammo as you can use in the gun. Because generally speaking, you have the ammo in your gun and you have one extra clip. So just reload when you can, and also grab as much ammo as you can. Shut up, Stephanie. Obviously, don't be an idiot about it and annoy your team, because they'll probably kick you. But try and grab ammo when you see it. You have to be proactive with this. It's not like with other guns where you can generally just think, okay, my passives will deal with my ammo consumption. No, you're going to be using a lot of ammo. But if you play the build correctly, and you're doing what you're supposed to be doing, which as a veteran, your job is to make sure this lot does not destroy your team. Your job is to keep this off your team while they deal with armor, hordes, more armor. So, you prioritize gunners, and you prioritize disablers. And as you can see, you don't even need to really charge the gun. And as just demonstrated there, hip firing it, when you get to 100, all it does is chip away at your toughness. The only way you can fail with this gun is if you are bracing and overcharging it. You do more damage, but like I said, I wouldn't bother bracing it unless you're fighting a lot of crushers or a monstrosity. And generally with my builds, the way I deal with both of those situations are with crack grenades. Because who doesn't like crack grenades? So, I'll go over the build I'm using. But as I said, this can be used with either one, really. It does work specifically well with this, but it does also work with Marksman's Focus, not as well with Weapon Specialist. With that, you want something a little bit nippier. So, recently, I changed my builds continuously. They are a constant evolution of playstyle, and as the game changes, I change the build with it. Because this is not always going to be quote-unquote meta, or, you know, the best thing to use. At the moment, I'm using this because it is helpful. As soon as that changes, I will change the build. So we're using long shot to deal more damage based on how far away the target is. I'm trying out exhilarating takedown, which replenishes 15% toughness and gain 10% toughness damage reduction for 8 seconds on range weak spot kill, stacks 3 times. And it's especially good with this gun because most of the time you will just be aiming high and for the face, which is going to stack up exhilarating takedown very, very quickly. And then we've got the standard of going through close order drill into confirmed kill, down through the crack grenade into health boost, into covering fire to help your team, fire team for a little bit more damage, and we are taking field improvisation at the moment. Especially if you're playing on higher difficulties, your team will love you for bringing this. As Ogryns are going to absolutely love it because they get grenades back, and you also cleanse corruption and replenish toughness with health kits. I mean, if you really want to, you can drop field improvisation and accelerating takedown and go into critical chance and an extra grenade, or you can go for melee and into serrated blade. You will be switching between melee and ranged a lot with this build, because when you get overwhelmed, and you will, doesn't matter what difficulty you're playing on, you will become overwhelmed at some point, and at that point you have to switch, go to melee, make room for yourself, and then pull back out as soon as you see any specials or disablers. So you have to learn the whole killing machine in melee, back out, and switch out. Because that's the vet's job, really. You are there to protect your team at range. Whereas, obviously, Ogryn, say, with a slab shield, he's there to protect your team from melee and to keep things confined into small bunches to make it easy for your team to deal with things. So never forget, you need to pull out of melee to carry on your job, because gunners and specialists are what going to pull your team to pieces. Obviously, it's not just your job, but that is something you should prioritize. But anyway, so that's why adding into melee is never a bad choice, especially with this build. If you want to add a little bit more melee, obviously it's useful. And then we're going into Voice of Command and Duty and Honor. Basically, you are healing toughness, and you're going to be using this continuously. And then over here, we'll be grabbing weak spot damage. As I said, we're aiming for the face on everything, or the weak spot, which is usually the face, but, you know. And then we're going fully loaded to give us some more ammo, and then superiority complex to give 15% base damage against elites. And then from the middle here, suppression dealt, doesn't really matter. For the Emperor, your combat ability gives you and your allies a coherency 10% melee base damage and 10% base range damage for 5 seconds. Just makes this a little bit better. Then tactical awareness, combat ability cooldown reduced by 6 seconds on specialist enemy kill. As you can see, the build is really funneling us towards dealing with elites and specials, especially with tactical awareness, superiority complex, and all the other sort of things. Iron Will, a very, very good talent, 50% reduced toughness damage if above 75% toughness. This pairs up so well with Voice of Command because you'll continuously use it to keep your team topped up. And I mean, if you've got a Zealot with Chorus, that's even better. And then we're going to come down here for Rending Strikes, give 10% rending to all weapons. Rending basically works out to 1% rending is 1% damage. The calculation is more complicated than that, but that's how it ends up. Don't worry yourself about it. Bring it down, 20% damage to Ogryns and Monstrosities. Again, the build is funneling us towards being that specialist killer. And then we're taking all points with Focus Target, because why not? Stacks up to 8, do more damage, get more toughness. It's just a all-round good ability. And as you're going to be basically tagging anything that you're fighting, as you can see, even if the stacks at the bottom are only at, say, 3 or 4, you're going to be shooting so much that it's going to keep refreshing it. It doesn't change your stack amount, it just refreshes what you already have. If you have lower than 8, obviously it will change the amount, but if you have 8, don't feel like you have to wait for the full 8 to stack up, because it doesn't work like that. Just keep tagging. Not only does it notify your teammates of an incoming threat, it gives you a nice big silhouette to aim for. And as I said, the projectile from the plasma is very generous, so you know, after a couple of matches you will start getting the feel for it a lot more. But there you go. That is some basics and intermediate things about the plasma gun. I will show you lastly what I'm using for melee. It doesn't really matter with this build. I use the Cadia Mark 13G Assault Chainsword with Flak, Melee Damage Specialist, Savage Sweeps, and Rampage. I use this thing, this is literally just for clearing out Poxwalker hordes that start to swarm you. So I don't use this for killing armor or anything like that. If I have to kill anything in armor, it will be either with the crack grenade or the plasma gun. This is just a chaff killer. And as for the curios, I change these out all the time, trying to figure out what I prefer best. At the moment, I quite enjoy using this setup, which is 1 health with 30% toughness regeneration speed, extra toughness, and damage resistant gunners. Then 1 with 15 toughness with toughness regeneration speed, damage resistant gunners with some more toughness on. And then lastly, toughness, damage resistant gunners, toughness regeneration speed, and more toughness. If you want to, you can drop out the toughness on these things for damage resistant snipers. Though I do find as the veteran snipers are less of an issue because you're pretty much always going to see them coming. And if you really, really want to, you could drop out 2 of the toughness regeneration speeds and only run with the 30. 90 is slightly overkill, but this build is basically all about the toughness regen and giving toughness and all that sort of thing. So it's nice to have more than is especially necessary. But I mean, you can drop it if you really want to and switch it out for, I mean, you could put some stamina regen on one and sniper damage on the other. Having a little bit of stamina regen is never a bad thing, especially if you're playing on higher difficulties. But there you go. Not so much a build guide, more of just talking about how to get the most out of a plasma gun. So I really hope this has been helpful, folks. And if it has, please do like, subscribe, ring the bell for notifications. It really does help us out. And I shall see you all for the next one. So until then, take it easy. I'll see you later.